Hey, I thought I would talk to you guys a little bit about a long gun, how I run it, how I have come to the manner in which I run the long gun now. It's a way that works well for me and it works well for people that I train. I don't train a whole lot of people on rifle stuff. It's just not something I do a lot of. However, the people that I have trained are very happy with the results that they got doing things the way that I do them. So I thought I would give you guys a little background because for me, it's always important to understand how do we arrive where we are right now. I do like to hear a little bit about where you came from and why you've decided this is the way you're going to do things. So I thought I would share that with you guys today. Now, my initial long gun experience was based on kind of informal training, I guess you could say, practices with my father and my grandfather, who were both trap and skeet shooters. Both of those guys competed. My grandfather competed all up and down the eastern seaboard and even ventured out into Ohio to compete shooting trap and skeet. And my dad did very well in the state of Maryland, but then went on to the military and his life took him elsewhere. Now, what those guys taught me to do was to mount the shotgun in the shoulder, elbow up to kind of create a pocket around the buttstock, and then I'm going to pull in hard. I'm really going to pull that in hard and drive my shoulder in behind it so that you don't want it bouncing around, and get a good cheek weld. And then this hand, my left hand, is going to be kind of loose and light, and I'm going to point. And so what you would do is you call, you give the signal call, and they bring out the bird, and you track it, and you just point at it, and then you touch off your one or two shells, touch those off as needed to address the birds, so the clay. Now, that was how I shot a shotgun for a very long time, even hunting with an 870, which was kind of the standard issue back then. You have to remember I was born in 1967, so we're talking 70s, 80s, doing hunting with shotguns of various types and manners, actions, and then also some bolt gun. So we would do a little bit of bolt gun work, and that was typically, so you have to understand, it's a rural part of the country, and groundhogs, things like that, are destructive. They will tear a field up. Their little tunnels and holes and all those things lead to horses stepping in them and hurting themselves and cows and stuff. So they're a nuisance. So we would go out and hunt groundhogs, and that would always be with a bolt gun, a lighter bolt gun. And then for deer or anything like that, if we're hunting with a rifle, then again, a bolt gun, but also never any kind of like standing instruction. It was always just kind of like you're watching, you're on a rest, you have the forearm of the rifle resting on something, maybe it's got its own bipod, and you're just kind of just popping them in the head as they show up. And nobody ever told me like, hey, stay behind the scope, run the bolt, and stay on. I never had any of that instruction. That wasn't until later. So that's the bulk of my experience as a kid growing up in an awesome part of the country where you could run and you could fish and hunt to your heart's delight. It's just a beautiful part of the world. So then I got into law enforcement. And when I got into law enforcement at the academy, we were trained on the pistol and the shotgun. And the shotgun was, of course, the 870. And there, they really put a lot of emphasis on pulling back hard with the right arm and basically shooting the modern technique, which is also how we were taught with the pistol. So modern technique was, elbow to the deck, push-pull tension, all that good stuff. And with the shotgun, we basically mimicked that. So we would pull back into the shoulder, into the pocket we create here, good cheek weld, and then light tension on with the left hand, so that you have to remember with the pump action shotgun, if you pull back too hard, you'll seize up the action and it won't cycle. So you want to have just enough tension on it that as you press the trigger and the round goes off, you can cycle the action. So that was fun and interesting, and I got to shoot a shotgun pretty fast, faster than I ever had before, by intention. and understand slugs, buckshot, that kind of thing. That was a very in-depth discussion there, and also the merits of each on various barriers. So fast forward a few years and I try out for and get to SWAT. Now in SWAT, they had a mixture of MP5s and ARs. And the MP5 is a wonderful little subgun. I really like it. It's basically a really heavy 9mm pistol, and it is a lot of fun to shoot. And my first couple classes that I went to were Singleton International, Phil Singleton, and he would teach you to mount the MP5, and then you roll your elbows under like you're trying to wring out a towel. And you just really just try to just like bear that thing down and just create a lot of downward pressure. And that keeps it from rising. And that works really well. I know a lot of people that still do that. And that works, like I said, very well. It can be tiring if you're doing long strings of fire, if you're in a course or something like that. But for the purposes it's designed for, which is to mount and make very fast hits, maybe full auto burst hits on a target, probably not going to get too fatigued. Now, went through that class. That was awesome. Then I went to my first AR class for law enforcement, and in that class, similar to the MP5 classes, except they had us grab the magwell. So we would grab the magwell right about here, and you also would collapse the stock down almost as far as it would go, and you would just roll this all in here, and you just would just stay very tight and very close. And I don't know, man. I will say this. I don't know of anybody who shoots at a high level that runs the gun like that. But that's how we were taught back then. And one of the things, kind of the selling point, was you could hold on to the magwell like this, and you could rest your elbow on your body like this, and then you could just hold a position, say barricaded subject, surrounding call out, that kind of thing. You could just stay here for a long time and just still be ready. You know, you're in a ready position, still ready to do work if you had to. I get it. But again, when it's time to run the rifle fast and hard and make accurate hits and move around, maybe it's not the best idea. But that was one of my training classes. I did my best to just do what I was told and excel at the information I was given. Shortly after that, I went out to D.R. Middlebrook's place. And D.R. Middlebrooks has a system of shooting called Fistfire. He is a gunsmith, an amazing gunsmith. Now he is working on a Remington 1100, which is a semi-auto shotgun. And he's working on this for a customer who needs it prepped for hunting season. So he's tuning some things up and slicking up the action a little bit and putting some different sights on it. And he takes it out there and runs it on the range. So myself and Daniel Horner and some other guys, we're out on the range and we're shooting and doing our thing. And DR comes out of the shop with this 1100, and to me, it sounded like it went full auto. Like, I've never seen somebody shoot a shotgun that fast before. Now it is semi-auto, but that was something else, and stayed on target. Like, it didn't lift, he wasn't getting pushed around, he was just on it, and put all the slugs just right through a zero down IDPA target. Scoring circle. And I thought, and probably at like 25 yards. So I said, holy smokes, man. So I said to him, I go, how do you do that? Like, I've never seen anybody shoot a shotgun, slugs no less, like that. And he said, oh, it's Rob Haught. Like, Rob Haught's the man. He's got a way to shoot shotguns, and that's the best way out there. Rob's the best shotgunner on the planet, and I do what he does. And I said, okay, cool. So what is it? And it's basically push-pull, which is you pull with the hand that's on the foregrip, you pull towards the target while pulling back with your rear hand. So I am pulling with my right hand and I'm pushing with my left hand into the target. So I'm push-pulling, and it's almost like I'm trying to tear this rifle apart. So it's a really aggressive, for me it's aggressive, way of mounting and driving the gun. And I did it with that 1100, put some more slugs in it, and immediately was like, holy cow, why have I not heard of this? Why don't I know about this? And I just couldn't wait I just wanted to stop shooting the pistol and just shoot the shotgun, because I had never shot a shotgun in this manner before without getting beat up, not shooting slugs. And it was interesting because he said, hey, you know, this method works so good, even if you don't get a good mount on your shoulder, like you can still do it. You got to remember, man, like this is 2000. This is pre 9/11. This is 1999, 2000. Like this is 25 years ago. DR takes this 1100, holds it in the air, and does the push-pull thing and lets it rip. And the shotgun just sits there. Like it doesn't go anywhere. And I thought, holy cow. So then I said, hey, I go, okay, some of the recoil impulse is being taken by the action of the bolt. So the action of the gun is using or borrowing the recoil impulse to cycle. What do you do with an 870 or a pump gun? So, because that's what I have to use for work. So that's what I was asking. I wasn't being that guy. I was just like, hey, how would I do this with a work gun? Like I have an 870 back home in the patrol car. So how do I make this work? So DR said, hey, here's what we're going to do. I have this, he had a Maverick 88 or something like that. Some sort of like $100 shotgun, like just garbage gun that he used for just messing around with out there. It's like mostly bird shot out of it. And he puts slugs in it, racks it, holds it up, does the same thing. Now, because it's, you know, he has to hold it like this and presses the trigger and it doesn't move. Cycles the slide, or cycles the pump, does it again. And I'm going, holy cow. I'm like, man, let me try that. So I take the shotgun, I mount it up. Now, mind you, I've already done it with the 1100, but at the same time, I had to be honest to the problem, which is I don't have an 1100. I have a pump gun. So I mount this thing up and I pull back as hard as I can, which means I got to drive my shoulder into it. And then I'm pulling forward as hard as I can. And I just started running it. And it was like nothing. It was like, I'm not going to say it was like shooting a 22, but it was like, there was nothing there. Like, holy cow. And DR said to me, like, hey, you don't have to, like, you're pushing and pulling so hard, like your muscles are just flexing. Like it looks like you're going to tear that gun apart. And it actually did kind of like, it was twisting the forearm a little bit on that little Maverick. And DR's like, you probably don't have to pull that hard, but it's definitely taming the recoil and completely mitigating it. It's just getting rid of it. And I was a fan immediately. So I came back home and started going to other classes. Now I started doing this with the AR. So I started doing this with this rifle. Go to classes and I would get up on the line, and DR was always big about, you know, extend the stock out, you know, get as far out on the forearm as you can. And so I would get my rifle and I'd get set, I'd get on the line, I'd get my athletic stance, you know, kind of like if we're gonna run, you know, how am I gonna stand if, like, you said to me, listen, I'll give you $1,000 if you can beat me in a foot race from here to that stop sign, 60 yards away. How would I stand? You know, like I'm gonna get ready and I'm gonna rock. I'm gonna be hips forward, feet a little staggered, shoulders driving in, ready to just get turned loose, right? And so I would get up on the rifle, I'd mount it up and I'd pull as hard as I can, I'd push as hard as I can, and I'd just burn it down. And I would, you know, at the FBI range in North Chicago and other places where I'd go for these rifle classes, I would end up just, you know, tight groups. And guys would always say, do you have a comp on that gun? Is there a comp or anything like that? I'm like, no, there's no comp. Like when I went through Paul Howe's hostage rescue school and shortly after 9/11, he was really anti-comp. He was like, hey man, comps on rifles in close quarters, that's just silly. Don't do it. You're gonna beat your teammates up. It's potentially damaging. And so I immediately took the comp that I had off of my rifle, and I just run kind of a bird cage type thing. I don't know if you can see that or not, but yeah, I just run just a very simple flash suppressor. And I noticed that I no longer had issues. All issues I'd ever had with mounting the rifle, being able to shoot over and under cars, around barricades, things like that, that went away. Because even if I couldn't get the perfect cheek weld and shoulder mount and all that other stuff, if I could create that push-pull tension on this rifle, even if I came up over the shoulder, I create that push-pull tension, I can just hold it right in place. It doesn't move. So I would encourage you guys to give that a shot. That's where I'm at now. That was my history of how I got here. For the last 24 years, 25 years, that's how I have shot every long gun that I pick up. I use push-pull. Really quick, the reason I have irons on this isn't because I'm doing some sort of limited gun experiment or anything like that. It's just, it's a training tool and I use it to practice my indexing. So I will bring it up with one hand and make sure that I am getting the index so that it comes up, it's right underneath my eye, and then I'll do it with the other hand. So I'll get the toe underneath my dominant eye and I'll bring it up and I'll do my best to not move my head a whole lot. So I don't want to like duck my head. I want to come up and have the sights be pretty much under my eye. So I'm just using it to practice while I am deciding which red dot I'm going to get. So probably going to go with the Holosun 510 again. I really like those on a rifle or a shotgun. So probably going to pick another one of those up. Anyway, didn't want you guys to get distracted by the irons. So, but yeah, this is how I've run a rifle or any type of long gun. And I'll see if I can find some video. I'll plug it in here of my wife, Jill, shooting an MP5 for the very first time. And she did this. She shot it in this manner. And you can see it just sits flat. And which was not the experience of some other folks who were shooting the MP5 at this is kind of a range day type thing. And some other folks were having some struggles, and Jill was able to just lock it down, hold it right flat, and just let her rip. And so same with the AR, same with the shotgun. So it's not just a big guy thing. I don't think of myself as a big guy. I'm like 5'11", maybe 6 foot on a good day. And I weigh around 220, 230. So I'm not big. I'm not like 6'4" and 300 pounds. I'm just your average size male. But I do feel like this approach works for me and everybody else I've ever shared it with. So if you guys think it's valuable, give it a shot. Do me a favor, try it a couple times, maybe just a magazine or two, and let me know what you think. Let me know if you think it works, if it worked for you. If it didn't work for you, but you maybe think you didn't get something right, reach out to me and I'll talk to you. We can figure it out and get it sorted out, because I really think if you were to run a long gun like this, that push-pull method that Rob Haught and his son teach, if you were to really run every long gun that you pick up in that manner, I think, man, you'd be really happy with the results. It is a game changer. Check it out, give it a shot. Let me know what you think. I appreciate you guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow.